I presume as well, Brian, must be a huge difference if you're a Sexton, and this applies as well to the disallowed try. The greatest try will never score, probably. When you're moving forward with your kick as opposed to on the back foot under pressure with your kick. I mean, that's why one of the reasons the kick is perfect for Keenan.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing. You know, also it's the level of pressure coming against you, and the time you have to pull off your skill, or you know, sometimes that extra half second just settles you, knowing that you can get absolute perfect contact from it, which is exactly what happened from Sexton on the try. But you know, we saw him again later on, like I said, about with Earls, with that no try on penalty advantage. You know, a really good kick and a phenomenal put down from him. Such a shame that was chalked off because of Cian Healy's knock on marginal things, but. It just felt as though they were really enjoying themselves. Once they got into it and realised they had at least parity on the collision winning, and then they had the ascendancy, it just felt as though it came much easier. And there's no shock there. This is a collision winning game that we play. And when you get the impetus, everything else becomes much, much easier. The speed of your ruck ball, the defence on the back foot. And we talk about it the whole time, but it does become really simplistic when you start winning that kind of corridor of power.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm interested as well, Brian, just on, like we've been asking here for a while, let's get our wingers more involved. Well, the wingers were in often as first receivers. I know we've seen a little bit of that with James Lowe, but even Aki went into scrum half at one stage. You know, if everything seemed to be about making the ball go faster, whatever was happening, just move it on. If somebody isn't there, we're not waiting around for anybody. And what I really liked actually was at times the way the English defended the back of our line out. They were double banking at the back. So the only option on is to throw to the front. But if that happened, almost certainly the winger became the first receiver and who passed then to 10, because we wanted width, we looked for width immediately. And that makes a huge difference.
Well, do you know what it does as well, Keith? It gives your best passer, you know, puts them into second distributor. And we used to do it a bit, you know, back 10 years ago, be it Rog or Johnny, where I'd sometimes go in at first receiver, get the ball out to them, and you obviously either had their wiper kick, an ability to, you know, put a long searching kick over the winger's head, or to play that wide pass out to your 15 or out to your blind winger working around the corner. So I think there's a lot of merit in that. It's probably the most I've seen Keith Earls coming in at first receiver, and Johnny sometimes needs to be told, get out there, because he likes dictating play. Whereas, you know, if he's not in the perfect position, if you have to work hard to get outside him and you might be null and void, much better off getting in a first receiver, pushing him out. And I think they're learning a lot more about that under Stuart Lancaster at Leinster as well. If you watch them, how often they'll come in rather than run to the end of a back line as a Larmer or one of the outside backs. They'll plug themselves in and push the guys that are in there out further. It's an easier thing to do, to actually have a relative involvement in the move. So yeah, I think there was so much good stuff with regard to that, and it just feels as though, you know, Johnny's talked over the course of the last few weeks about it's coming, we're going to click, and none of us believed it, because we hadn't seen proof, you know, to reinforce the thought process that this might actually be coming. And then finally you get one of those performances, you go, oh, okay, maybe it is there. Well, we get the pennies dropped now. You weren't just trying to support your coaching ticket and telling them they were doing a great job because you're captain and that's your role. You genuinely believed it, and credit to them that they did believe, and then they were able to back it up.
What is the difference? Is it the pace? Is it winning the collision first?
Yeah, for me
is it just on that, or is it also, for me it seemed to be a bit of a mindset change, that it wasn't about short pops 9 to a forward. There was a couple of cases in the last few weeks where Johnny almost had his back to the 9. He wasn't ready for it, and because there was an idea.
Guilty of that in the past. Yeah, of thinking a phase ahead and a setup phase, rather than always, if you're an option for every play, the defense is able to read, you know, you're not interested, you're organizing something out the back, it means it's going to, the pod that's coming is going to hit that up. So if you're an option every single time, it's only a fraction of a second of concentration needs to be dropped, or an interest level through the back, and that's where those little tip-ons work, and that's where an offload is created, or that's where a little bit of footwork gets you in behind the defensive line, a meter or two, and then you strike on the next phase. So it really is the tiny margins, and they just managed to win more of them than they lost at the weekend.
And as a sort of guideline for what we'd look to do going forward, are we trying to say that we want to play at the highest level of pace possible and that everybody can be a receiver? Because that's what it looked like. And that is a big difference, from where we've been.
But can we ultimately compete physically with all of the teams in the world? No, we can't. We can do it sometimes when we're emotionally charged against England and we feel as though we have a point to prove, and CJ Stander's last game and all of these very emotive things. You can't back that up week on week. And in a World Cup, when you have to do that against France, against South Africa, against New Zealand, against England, against Argentina, we can't concurrently, or we can't kind of connectively do it against these different teams. So we have to find a way to actually play a brand that, yes, we can do that sometimes, but we also play fast and frenetic, a bit like Japan did in the World Cup. They used their skill set as best they possibly could. They came unstuck against South Africa because they just got beaten up. But we can take on these big teams. I just don't think we can do it time and time again. And that's why we've got to find a way to just think our way around them a little bit more. And I felt we did that by the variety, by not just charging in one-off runners anymore, not pods around the corner. It felt as though there was viable options. And once everyone is a viable option and you can pick 1, 2 or 3 options, your defenses start getting a little bit softer, you give inside shoulders or you read through, and that's when the opportunities arise. And that's where the heads-up football that they've been banging on about comes to fruition and serves its purpose.